Hey, what's up, everyone? Today we're diving deep into something that affects all of us, dealing with toxic people. You know who I'm talking about. The energy vampires, the chronic complainers, the manipulators who just drain your life force. But guess what? The ancient Stoics figured this out 2,000 years ago, and I'm about to show you their battle-tested techniques that actually work. We're talking real strategies that will transform how you handle difficult people, protect your mental peace, and literally change your life. Stay tuned until the end, because strategy number 13 is an absolute game changer that most people never even think about. Strategy 1, the mental fortress technique. The foundation of dealing with toxic people starts with understanding one crucial Stoic principle, the dichotomy of control. Here's the reality bomb. You can't control other people's behavior, but you have absolute control over your response. This isn't just some feel-good quote for your Instagram. This is your first line of defense. Think of your mind as an impenetrable fortress. Every thought, every emotion, every reaction is like a guard at the gate. The Stoics understood that true power lies not in controlling the outside world, but in fortifying your inner domain. When you grasp this, toxic people lose 90% of their power over you instantly. The mental fortress isn't just about blocking negativity. It's about creating an internal environment so strong that external toxicity bounces off like rubber bullets on titanium. This means developing an unwavering core of self-worth that no toxic person can penetrate. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote his meditations while dealing with some of the most toxic people imaginable: corrupt politicians, betrayers, and endless complainers. Yet he maintained his sanity by remembering that their actions couldn't touch his inner citadel unless he allowed it. The key to building your mental fortress is daily preparation. Before you start your day, visualize potential encounters with toxic people. See yourself as the fortress, strong, immovable, impenetrable. Their words and actions are just waves crashing against your walls, powerful, but ultimately harmless. Remember, toxic people often target those they perceive as vulnerable. By maintaining your mental fortress, you're not only protecting yourself, but also sending a clear message. Your toxicity has no power here. This alone will make many toxic people seek easier targets. The mental fortress requires constant maintenance. Each time you successfully deflect toxic behavior, reinforce your walls. Celebrate these small victories. They're proof that your fortress is working, that you're growing stronger. Your fortress isn't about isolation, it's about selective permeability. Let in what serves you, block what harms you. This discriminating awareness is crucial for maintaining healthy relationships while protecting yourself from toxic influences. The beauty of the mental fortress is its adaptability. Different toxic people require different defensive strategies, and your fortress can adapt to each threat. It's like having an immune system that gets stronger with each exposure to a pathogen. One common mistake is thinking the mental fortress makes you cold or unfeeling. Actually, it's the opposite. By protecting yourself from toxicity, you preserve your capacity for genuine connection and empathy with those who deserve it. The mental fortress technique becomes more powerful over time. Each day you maintain it, each toxic encounter you successfully navigate adds another layer of strength to your defenses. Think of your mental fortress as a gift to your future self. Every investment you make in strengthening it today pays dividends in peace of mind and emotional stability tomorrow. Strategy 2, the Stoic Mirror Method. The Stoic Mirror Method is your secret weapon for transforming toxic encounters into opportunities for growth. This isn't just about surviving toxic people. It's about using their behavior as a catalyst for your own development. Welcome to next-level emotional alchemy. When you encounter a toxic person, imagine holding up a mirror to their behavior. But here's the twist. Instead of reflecting their toxicity back at them, you're going to use it as a teaching tool for yourself. Every toxic trait they display is a lesson in what to avoid. The ancient Stoics had a practice called negative visualization, imagining worst-case scenarios to prepare for them. The Stoic mirror method takes this further. When someone shows toxic behavior, ask yourself, what can this teach me about my own potential shortcomings? This method requires radical honesty with yourself. When someone's behavior triggers you, the mirror often reveals why. Maybe their need for control highlights your own control issues. Maybe their negativity shows you where you could be more positive. The real power of the Stoic mirror comes from its ability to transform enemies into teachers. Every toxic person becomes an unwitting guru, showing you exactly what behaviors to avoid and which virtues to cultivate. Remember, the goal isn't to feel superior to toxic people. The Stoic mirror is about humble self-improvement. Each toxic encounter becomes an opportunity to refine your character and strengthen your resilience. The method works because it shifts your focus from external frustration to internal growth. Instead of wasting energy on anger or resentment, you're channeling that energy into personal development. As you practice the Stoic mirror method, you'll start noticing patterns. Certain toxic behaviors will trigger specific responses in you. This awareness is golden. It's your roadmap for emotional growth. One beautiful aspect of this method is its ripple effect. As you become more aware of toxic behaviors and actively work to avoid them, you naturally become a better friend, partner, and colleague to others. The Stoic mirror method also helps you develop compassion, not the weak, enabling kind, but the strong, clear-eyed variety that understands toxic behavior, often comes from pain or ignorance. This method requires patience and practice. You won't master it overnight, but each time you use toxic behavior as a mirror for self-reflection, you're building emotional intelligence and wisdom. The ultimate goal is to reach a point where toxic people no longer trigger negative emotions, but instead inspire gratitude for the growth opportunities they provide. Strategy 3. The perspective shift. When dealing with toxic people, your perspective is your greatest weapon. This strategy isn't just about changing how you see difficult people. It's about fundamentally transforming your entire relationship with toxicity. The Stoics understood that our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. When you encounter a toxic person, your first task is to shift your perspective from victim to observer. Think of toxic behavior like bad weather. It's unpleasant, but it's temporary and not personal. This perspective immediately removes the emotional charge from toxic encounters and places you in a position of power. The key to the perspective shift is understanding that toxic people are actually imprisoned by their own behavior. Their toxicity is their cage, not yours. This realization naturally generates compassion without compromising your boundaries. When you shift your perspective, you start seeing toxic behavior as information rather than attacks. Every negative interaction becomes data about the other person's limitations, fears, and internal struggles. This shift doesn't mean excusing bad behavior, quite the opposite. It means seeing it clearly for what it is, a manifestation of the other person's internal chaos. This clarity is essential for maintaining strong boundaries. The perspective shift becomes more powerful when you realize that toxic people are often your greatest teachers. They show you exactly what behaviors to avoid and which virtues to cultivate in yourself. Practice viewing toxic encounters as training grounds for your own development. Each difficult interaction is an opportunity to practice patience, wisdom, and emotional regulation. Remember that toxic people often act from a place of pain or fear. This understanding doesn't require you to accept their behavior, but it helps you maintain your own peace of mind. The perspective shift also involves seeing yourself differently. Instead of being a target of toxic behavior, you become a witness to it, calm, composed, and unmoved by the storm around you. This strategy becomes particularly powerful when combined with the mental fortress technique. Your shifted perspective becomes another layer of defense, making you even more resilient to toxic behavior. The ultimate goal of the perspective shift is to reach a state where toxic behavior no longer triggers an emotional response, but instead prompts curiosity and learning. Strategy 4. The strategic distance. Creating strategic distance from toxic people isn't about running away. It's about mastering the art of conscious separation. This is where ancient Stoic wisdom meets modern boundary setting. Understanding the concept of strategic distance begins with accepting that you don't owe anyone your energy, time, or presence. This isn't selfish, it's essential for maintaining your mental health and productivity. The Stoics practiced selective association, choosing carefully who they spent time with. They understood that we become like the people we surround ourselves with, making strategic distance a form of self-preservation. This strategy requires you to be honest about which relationships drain you and which energize you. It's about making conscious choices about your social environment rather than letting it happen by default. Strategic distance can be physical, emotional, or both. Sometimes you need to literally create space. Other times, you need to establish emotional boundaries while maintaining physical proximity. The key is implementing distance gradually and intentionally. Sudden cuts often create drama and resistance, while strategic distancing allows for natural separation without unnecessary conflict. One powerful aspect of strategic distance is its flexibility. You can adjust the degree of separation based on the situation, the person, and your own capacity at any given time. This strategy becomes particularly important in professional settings where complete separation isn't possible. Learning to maintain professional strategic distance while remaining effective is a crucial skill. Remember that strategic distance isn't about punishment, it's about protection. You're not withdrawing to hurt the toxic person. You're creating space to protect your own peace and energy. The art of strategic distance includes developing subtle techniques for maintaining separation without creating obvious barriers. This might mean limiting conversation topics, reducing shared activities, or managing communication channels. As you practice strategic distance, you'll notice your energy levels improving and your stress decreasing. This positive feedback reinforces the importance of maintaining healthy boundaries. The ultimate goal of strategic distance is to create an environment where you can thrive without constantly defending against toxic energy. Strategy 5. The response protocol. Developing a systematic response protocol for toxic behavior is like having a well-rehearsed emergency plan. When toxicity strikes, you know exactly what to do. This strategy eliminates reactive behavior and replaces it with strategic responses. The response protocol begins with recognition. You need to quickly identify toxic behavior patterns before they escalate. This requires developing keen awareness of your own emotional triggers and common toxic tactics. Your protocol should include pre-planned responses for different types of toxic behavior. Just as a firefighter doesn't decide how to fight a fire while the building is burning, you shouldn't wait until you're triggered to figure out your response. The key is maintaining emotional neutrality while executing your protocol. Think of yourself as a scientist observing a reaction, precise, methodical, and detached from the emotional content of the situation. Each response in your protocol should be designed to minimize drama while maximizing your peace of mind. This often means choosing responses that might feel less satisfying in the moment, but serve your long-term interests better. The protocol should include clear exit strategies for different scenarios. Sometimes the best response is a graceful withdrawal, and having pre-planned exit phrases or actions makes this much easier. Practice is essential. Mental rehearsal of your protocol helps build neural pathways that make appropriate responses automatic rather than requiring conscious effort in the moment. Your protocol should include self-care elements, specific actions you take after encounters with toxic people to reset your emotional state and maintain your mental health. The response protocol isn't static. It should evolve based on what works and what doesn't. Regular evaluation and adjustment of your responses ensures your protocol remains effective. Remember that different toxic people require different protocols. What works with a passive-aggressive colleague might not work with a manipulative family member. Your protocol should be flexible enough to adapt to various situations. The power of the protocol lies in its ability to transform emotional reactions into strategic responses. This shift alone often changes the dynamic with toxic people dramatically. Ultimately, Your response protocol becomes a source of confidence. Knowing you have a tested system for handling toxic behavior allows you to enter potentially difficult situations with greater peace of mind. Strategy 6. The emotional alchemy. True mastery in dealing with toxic people comes from transforming negative emotions into fuel for growth. This strategy teaches you to turn poison into medicine, just as the Stoics did. Emotional alchemy begins with accepting that every negative emotion carries valuable information. Your anger signals violated boundaries. Your frustration reveals unmet needs. Your anxiety highlights areas for growth. This technique requires you to develop awareness of your emotional state in real time. When toxicity triggers you, pause and observe the emotion before it triggers a reaction. The transformation process starts with identification, naming exactly what you're feeling. This creates space between the emotion and your response, giving you power over your reactions. Instead of suppressing or avoiding negative emotions, emotional alchemy teaches you to channel them productively. Anger becomes determination. Frustration transforms into motivation. Fear converts to preparation. This strategy works because it honors your emotional experience while preventing it from controlling you. You're not denying your feelings, you're upgrading them into more useful forms. Practice turning each toxic encounter into an opportunity for emotional mastery. Every attempt at manipulation becomes a chance to strengthen your boundaries. Every criticism, an opportunity to reinforce self-trust. The key to successful emotional alchemy is maintaining awareness of the transformation process. Notice how emotions shift and change when you consciously work with them rather than against them. This technique becomes more powerful over time as you build an internal library of emotional transformations. What once triggered hours of upset now becomes fuel for growth in minutes. Remember that emotional alchemy isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent. You're developing the ability to work with your feelings rather than being worked over by them. The goal is to reach a state where toxic behavior automatically triggers your alchemical process, transforming potential emotional damage into psychological strength. With practice, you'll find yourself actually grateful for challenging encounters, knowing they provide raw material for your continued emotional evolution. Strategy 7. The value shield. Your personal values are your strongest defense against toxic behavior. This strategy teaches you to use your core values as an unbreakable shield against manipulation and negativity. The value shield works because it transforms external conflicts into internal alignment. When faced with toxic behavior, you don't react to the person. You respond from your values. Start by clearly defining your core values. These become your reference points for every interaction, helping you make decisions that align with your principles rather than reacting to provocation. This technique requires regular reinforcement of your values through conscious choice. Each time you encounter toxic behavior, ask yourself, what would my highest values have me do in this situation? The value shield becomes stronger with every use. Each time you choose to act from your values rather than react to toxicity, you reinforce your internal compass. Remember that your values are non-negotiable. Toxic people often try to make you compromise your principles. The value shield prevents this by keeping your core values front and center. This strategy helps you maintain consistency in your responses to toxic behavior. Instead of reacting differently each time, your values guide you to respond in alignment with your principles. The value shield also helps you identify toxic behavior more quickly. When someone's actions conflict with your core values, it becomes immediately apparent that boundaries are needed. Practice articulating your values clearly and calmly when challenged. This isn't about defending yourself. It's about stating your position with the quiet confidence that comes from deep conviction. Your value shield becomes more sophisticated over time as you learn to apply your principles to increasingly complex situations. This growth strengthens your overall resilience. The ultimate power of the value shield is its ability to transform confrontations into opportunities for demonstrating character. Every toxic encounter becomes a chance to live your values more fully. Through consistent application of this strategy, you develop an unshakable foundation that toxic behavior cannot penetrate. Strategy 8. The Stoic Time Warp. Time perspective is a powerful tool in handling toxic people. This strategy teaches you to zoom out and view current situations from a future vantage point, dramatically reducing their emotional impact. The Stoic Time Warp involves asking yourself, will this matter in a month, a year, 5 years? This immediate perspective shift helps you allocate emotional energy appropriately. This technique draws from Marcus Aurelius's practice of cosmic perspective, viewing current problems against the vast scale of time and space. Suddenly, toxic behavior becomes remarkably insignificant. Practice regularly asking yourself, how will I view this situation when looking back from the future? This mental time travel helps you respond to present challenges with future wisdom. The power of this strategy lies in its ability to break the spell of immediate emotional reactions. By projecting yourself into the future, you gain instant emotional distance from current provocations. Remember that most toxic encounters feel much more significant in the moment than they actually are. The time warp helps you right-size these experiences and respond appropriately. This technique becomes particularly powerful when dealing with recurring toxic behavior. Looking back from the future helps you identify patterns and develop more effective long-term strategies. The Stoic Time Warp also helps you maintain focus on your larger goals rather than getting caught up in temporary dramas. This broader perspective keeps you oriented toward what truly matters. Use this strategy to develop immunity to urgent-seeming but ultimately unimportant provocations. Most toxic behavior loses its power when viewed through the lens of time. Regular practice of the time warp develops your ability to maintain emotional equilibrium in challenging situations. You become less reactive because you're operating from a broader time perspective. This strategy helps you make better decisions by removing the pressure of immediate emotional reactions. You respond from your future self's wisdom rather than your present self's triggers. The ultimate goal is to develop automatic temporal perspective taking, where you naturally view toxic encounters through the lens of time, without conscious effort. Strategy 9. The Wisdom Filter. Developing a sophisticated filter for processing toxic input is essential for maintaining mental peace. This strategy teaches you to extract wisdom from negativity while discarding emotional poison. The wisdom filter starts with the understanding that even toxic behavior contains valuable information. Your task is to separate the useful from the harmful, just as a filter separates gold from sand. This technique requires developing discernment about what to take seriously and what to discard. Not every toxic comment deserves your attention, but some contain feedback worth considering. Practice examining toxic encounters for potential lessons while leaving behind the emotional charge. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this while discarding the negativity? The wisdom filter becomes more refined with use. You'll develop an intuitive sense of which aspects of toxic behavior contain valuable information and which are pure poison. Remember that the goal isn't to justify toxic behavior, but to ensure you don't miss growth opportunities hidden within difficult encounters. This strategy helps you maintain objectivity in emotional situations. By focusing on extracting wisdom, you naturally create distance from the toxic elements of the interaction. The wisdom filter also helps you develop stronger boundaries by clearly identifying what serves your growth and what doesn't. This clarity makes it easier to protect your energy. Practice regular reflection on toxic encounters, using your filter to identify patterns and insights that can serve your development while discarding everything else. Your filter should become more sophisticated over time, allowing you to process toxic input with increasing efficiency and less emotional engagement. The ultimate goal is to reach a state where you automatically extract value from difficult encounters while remaining unmoved by their toxic elements. This skill transforms you from a victim of toxic behavior into a strategic observer, capable of growing from any interaction without being diminished by it. Strategy 10. The Boundary Master. Mastering the art of boundaries is crucial for dealing with toxic people. This strategy teaches you to create and maintain powerful boundaries without creating unnecessary conflict. The key to effective boundaries is understanding that they're about you, not the other person. You're not controlling their behavior, you're deciding what you will and won't accept in your life. This technique requires clear communication of your limits without anger or defensiveness. State your boundaries as calm facts rather than emotional ultimatums. Practice identifying your limits before they're violated. Proactive boundary setting is always more effective than reactive boundary setting. The power of this strategy lies in its consistency. Boundaries are only as strong as your willingness to maintain them consistently over time. Remember that good boundaries aren't walls. They're filters that allow positive interactions while blocking toxic ones. They should be firm but not rigid, clear but not harsh. This strategy becomes particularly important when dealing with toxic people you can't completely avoid. Strong boundaries make limited interaction possible without emotional damage. The Boundary Master technique includes developing a clear understanding of consequences. Every boundary needs a consequence that you're willing and able to enforce. Practice regular boundary maintenance by checking in with yourself about where you need stronger limits and where you might be too rigid. Your boundary setting skills should evolve as you encounter new situations and challenges. Stay flexible while maintaining your core limits. The goal is to reach a state where boundary setting becomes natural and automatic, requiring minimal conscious effort to maintain. Eventually, your boundaries become a natural part of who you are, clearly communicated through your behavior without needing explicit statements. Strategy 11. The Energy Guardian. Protecting your energy when dealing with toxic people is crucial for long-term resilience. This strategy teaches you to manage your energy as a precious resource. The Energy Guardian technique starts with awareness, learning to recognize early signs of energy depletion before they become serious. This strategy requires regular energy audits. Track which interactions drain you and which energize you, then adjust your exposure accordingly. Practice energy conservation by being selective about where you invest your emotional and mental resources. Not every toxic situation deserves your full engagement. The power of this technique lies in its preventive nature. By managing your energy proactively, you become less vulnerable to toxic drainage. Remember that your energy is finite. Spending it wisely means sometimes choosing not to engage, even when provoked. This strategy becomes particularly important during prolonged exposure to toxic people. Learning to conserve and replenish your energy makes sustained resilience possible. The Energy Guardian technique includes developing a toolkit of rapid energy restoration methods for use after unavoidable toxic encounters. Practice regular energy maintenance through activities that replenish your reserves. This isn't selfish. It's essential for maintaining your ability to handle difficult people. Your energy management skills should become more sophisticated over time as you learn your personal patterns of depletion and restoration. The ultimate goal is to maintain stable energy levels, regardless of external toxicity, allowing you to engage when necessary without being depleted. This mastery transforms you from a reactive victim of energy vampires into a conscious manager of your own vital force. Strategy 12. The Reality Anchor. Staying grounded in reality when dealing with toxic people is essential for maintaining your sanity. This strategy teaches you to keep your feet firmly planted in truth despite others' attempts to distort it. The reality anchor begins with maintaining clear records of events and interactions. This creates an objective reference point when toxic people attempt to gaslight or manipulate. This technique requires developing strong trust in your own perception while remaining open to legitimate feedback. Balance is key, neither rigid nor easily swayed. Practice regular reality checks by consulting trusted friends or mentors. External validation helps maintain your anchor when toxic people try to destabilize you. The power of this strategy lies in its ability to prevent emotional manipulation. When you're firmly anchored in reality, attempts to distort truth become obvious and ineffective. Remember that toxic people often try to create alternate realities that serve their purposes. Your reality anchor keeps you connected to objective truth. This strategy becomes particularly important in long-term toxic relationships, where reality distortion happens gradually over time. The reality anchor technique includes developing strong critical thinking skills to evaluate situations objectively rather than emotionally. Practice maintaining your connection to reality through regular journaling, documentation, and fact-checking. This creates a solid foundation that toxic behavior cannot shake. Your anchoring skills should become stronger over time as you learn to quickly identify and reject attempts at reality distortion. The goal is to reach a state where your grip on reality is so strong that toxic manipulation attempts become immediately apparent and ineffective. This mastery transforms you from a potential victim of reality distortion into a stable force of truth and clarity. Strategy 13, the ultimate power move. The final strategy I'm about to share is the absolute nuclear option in dealing with toxic people. This is the technique that changed everything for me and countless others. But first, let's talk about why it works. This strategy combines everything we've discussed, the mental fortress, the Stoic mirror, and all the other techniques, into one devastating response to toxicity. It's not about confrontation or avoidance. It's about transcendence. The ultimate power move is about reaching a state of such complete internal sovereignty that toxic people become irrelevant to your peace of mind. This isn't ignoring them. It's ascending beyond their reach. This technique requires mastery of your attention. The Stoics understood that where you place your attention is where you place your power. The ultimate power move is about reclaiming that power completely. When you employ this strategy, you'll notice something fascinating. Toxic people often reform their behavior around you or naturally drift away. It's like magic, but it's actually simple physics. They can't affect what they can't reach. The true power of this strategy lies in its sustainability. Unlike other techniques that require constant energy and attention, this one becomes effortless with practice. It's the difference between holding up a shield and being naturally invulnerable. This method works because it addresses the root cause of why toxic people affect us: our own attachment to external validation and fear of conflict. When you master this, you're not just dealing with toxic people, you're transcending the entire dynamic. The implementation is subtle but profound. It involves cultivating such a strong internal locus of control that external toxicity becomes as relevant to your peace of mind as a stranger's opinion of your breakfast choices. This strategy requires a fundamental shift in how you view toxic people. Instead of seeing them as obstacles or enemies, you see them as irrelevant to your path. This isn't cruel, it's the ultimate form of boundaries. The beauty of this approach is its elegance. There's no drama, no confrontation, no elaborate techniques to remember. It's simply about existing in such a state of internal peace that toxicity finds no purchase. This technique becomes your default mode of operation, not just with toxic people, but in all challenging situations. It's the culmination of everything we've discussed, the final piece that makes all other strategies exponentially more effective. The ultimate power move is your declaration of emotional independence. Master this, and you'll never again be at the mercy of toxic people, not because you've learned to fight them, but because you've learned to be free of them entirely. There you have it, 13 Stoic strategies that will revolutionize how you deal with toxic people. Remember, these aren't just theoretical concepts. These are battle-tested techniques that have worked for thousands of years. If this video helped you, smash that like button and hit subscribe for more life-changing content. Drop a comment below sharing which strategy resonated with you the most. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to stay updated on future videos that will help you level up your life. Until next time, stay strong, stay stoic, and remember, you have the power to choose how others affect you. Peace out.